Hey everybody, it's Mr. Davis. Welcome back. I have some materials I'm going to show you first that you're going to need for today's drawing session. You're going to need a paper plate. Now if you don't have one of these, sometimes a big lid in the recycling bin might work pretty well, or a piece of cardboard. Just anything that's big that can cover up your hand. We do need something colored. So if you have crayons or markers or some colored pens around the house, just need to find 3 different colored drawing utensils. Now you might notice I also have tape. I have this big piece of paper. It's actually part of an old, the front of a container foam board. Any old piece of paper will work well because we really just want something to put a regular sheet of white paper down on. So anything that can kind of go in the background, get a little bit of crayon or marker or whatever on it, that's what we have. And then the tape is just to stick down our paper. Now, we need a few things to draw today. So today's lesson will be preparing us to do still lifes. Still lifes are it's a really neat old practice that just focuses on objects around the house, objects that we like, that we think of when we think of ourselves. Anything that doesn't move can be a still life. So I brought some plants. I have a couple little house plants. These are some succulents. My friend gave me some daffodils. So those will be good for drawing today. A lot of still lifes use fruit, so I brought fruit along. I have an apple, I have an orange, another apple. So if you want to take the time to get supplies, now if you don't have a house plant, I assume you'll have a fruit or a vegetable you can use around. If you don't have a house plant, you might want to use a toy or something not too complicated, but where you can follow along and draw the lines. So we have 2 exercises we're going to do today. Pause if you need to and come back. But the first exercise, we also need a pair of scissors. The first exercise, you're going to want the parent to help you with this, or someone in your family to help you with this, someone older. We are going to poke a hole through the middle of our paper plate. You could draw a hole if you want there first. But I'm going to poke a hole. And I don't want it to be too big because what I really want is for a marker to fit through there. Now I have some Sharpie markers hanging around too, so I think I might use one of those. Here's a purple one, why not? So basically with the hole, you want it to be big enough that your marker can go through there. You might need to wiggle it a little bit. But so that it stays on there, it's not going to fall off. Now you don't have to use a Sharpie, but that's why I have this paper down here, because we're going to do something called the blind contour drawing. That's just a fancy way of saying a drawing where you're not looking at it. I think I might add one more piece of tape to my little page here. And I got my paper plate set up. I'm going to uncap my marker. And the point of doing this exercise, you're going to be drawing in just a minute and it's going to show up and you won't be able to see what your hand is doing. Now the point of this exercise is we draw things the way that we think that they are. But when you're really looking at the edges of a thing, like a daffodil, I might draw a daffodil from my memory very differently. But when I'm looking at the edges, that's all I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on what's right in front of me. And so when I'm drawing, what it's going to do is I'm going to be forced to look at this edge. And then I go up and around the flower and around and around and around. And I'm going to come back. And I won't be able to see what I'm doing, but it's like my hand is following those edges with my drawing utensil, with my marker. So I'm going to try that with these daffodils in front of me. You can use whatever you've got in front of you. I'm going to uncap my marker, flip it over, and I'm going to draw my first flower. So big line. It's nice to have big paper for this too, if you have some. So the cool thing about this is it usually gets kind of messy. It doesn't always end up looking the way we think. See, that's kind of a total mess. But that's okay, because I practiced going around making the lines that are in a daffodil. I'm gonna do it again here. So now I've got this middle part of the daffodil. This middle daffodil. This one hasn't opened all the way yet. And you're not taking your eyes off of the flower, you're just carefully drawing it. And here my stem's pretty thick, but I practice carefully making my flower. It doesn't matter if I overlap here. I'm gonna do one more over to the side. And again, the stem turned out kind of big, but I really did a nice job of looking at the edges of those shapes while I'm drawing. That's a really important skill. Sometimes we look right at our drawings, but we don't look at the edges of the shapes. So if you had another plant, like I have this succulent, you could do it with another plant. I want to show you one other exercise we're going to do today though. Actually, I lied. I want to try this one more time, but with one of the fruits in front of me. So you can see my Sharpie bled through a little bit. It's good that we've got that there. And you don't have to use a Sharpie. Maybe this time I'll try it with a non-permanent marker. Though I do love Sharpies. So I got a red marker. I'm going to draw this orange. Now again, if I drew this right out of my head, it might be more of a circle shape. But when I look at the edges of the orange, and maybe even where these lines sort of crisscross, or some of the dots, sort of the bumpiness of the orange, I'm going to pay attention to different things while I draw. So this hole I need to make a little bigger. So I can just stick this back through. Again, have an adult help you. Open it up a little bit more. Let's see if that works. There we go. So I got my orange in front of me. I'm gonna go around the edge of my plate. This is a fun exercise to do with family too. They might get a kick out of it. So I know it looks not much different from how I might draw an orange, but it's practicing a very different skill, which is looking at the edge of the fruit as I'm drawing it. So I'm going to do this apple now. I have one more apple here too. Now sometimes these drawings are just beautiful on their own, or if you painted them in or colored them in, they'd look even nicer. So I'm practicing contour lines. Now this next exercise we want to do, I hope you have one more sheet of paper at least, is I want you to picture something. Picture something that you really like to draw. The simpler it is, the better it is. Maybe I'll picture, a coffee cup or a coffee mug with a handle. So what I want you to do is I want you to find 3 colors. I find that yellow, red, and blue work really well with this exercise because yellow's our lightest, red's a little darker, and then blue is going to be our darkest. So we're going to start with our lightest so that we don't get extra color on the markers. And what I'm going to do is I got my paper in front of me, I've got a paper behind it. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to try my best to draw a coffee mug from what I know with my eyes closed. So it's going to be hard. Here we go. And as you can see, that one actually turned out better than I thought, but a lot of times the shapes kind of end up going in their own directions. I'm going to use the next marker, try and do the same thing right over it. So again, I'm closing my eyes. I don't know really where things are. That's okay. I'll do one more with blue. So close your eyes. Try drawing that same thing over again. And even that kind of is its own pretty drawing. Might be fun to color in or decorate the outside. These are good exercises to warm up to a still life. I'm going to try it with one more sheet of paper. Try drawing something a little more complicated just to show you how kind of interesting it can get when my eyes are closed. So maybe for this one, I'm going to draw a dog. So I'm picturing the ears in my head, the face, the body, the legs. My eyes are closed. I'm doing the legs, the tail, and up to the head. That actually turned out pretty good. So I'm going to do the same thing with my red marker. Maybe I'll start with a different part of the dog. So here, I'll start with the tail. My eyes are closed. I'm doing a back leg, front leg, another front leg, snout, some ears. And you can notice I'm not lifting my marker off the paper, and that helps me make this drawing. So again, my eyes are closed. I started with yellow, then red. You can do this with crayons too. I'm gonna try, maybe I'll start with the front legs this time. So my eyes are closed. Doing the head, snout, the ears, back. There we go. So see, the lines get kind of crisscrossed. It doesn't always end up looking just like a dog. But again, this is the practice. The practice is getting more comfortable drawing with lines. And one way to do it is with our blind contour drawing. And one way to do it is with our eyes closed. So you should have an eyes closed drawing, a contour drawing or two, depending on what you made. And I hope you had a lot of fun making this. It can be a really fun, silly exercise. Great one to do with your family. It's kind of humbling for all artists to try it. So hopefully you had a lot of fun, got a lot out of it. Next week we will take what we learned here and what we practiced with our different drawings to make still lives. So stay tuned, keep checking the Schoology pages, and I will see you next week. Bye.